Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another week of Overwatch Lately, the show where we talk about what's been happening in Overwatch lately. And today we've got a very special guest, a Contenders player for Triumph Gaming, and a very well-known streamer. We've got Samito here, the Dorito, my favorite Dorito of all time. How's it going, man?
It's going pretty well. I'm glad to hear I'm your favorite. Doritos are pretty good, man. Pretty good. I would snack on them before games.
Which one's your favorite? Cool Ranch or
Cool
Spicy
Ranch.
Nacho? Okay, that's definitely the right one. So if anyone is wondering where I get that from, my friend here, Sam, has his own copy pasta, which is Spam this Dorito to help out Samito, and he is responsible for 90% of the consumption of Dorito, because the second I see that copy pasta, I need to eat it. So thank you for the 5 pounds over the season. I appreciate it.
No problem, man. No problem.
Well, it's so great to officially meet you and talk to you and get you into this kind of interview space, because you've been on Twitter a lot lately. You've been espousing some opinions, particularly about Moira lately. And I really want to dive deep into that brain, because even just in the pre-show when we were just talking, I really like how you're talking about a lot of this stuff, and I'm so excited to dive deep into some of these subjects. But first, we got to just talk about some news. Does it sound good?
Oh, yeah, I'm in.
All right, so we're going to go over just a bunch of coaching changes really quickly. I know there's been a lot of player changes. We're going to wait till next week, or for a couple weeks, for all of them to really come through to really discuss those. But first, I wanted to talk about coaches, because I think that's something that is kind of like a personal thing for me to say, these guys are really important. These are leading people into their adulthood, especially on these teams, and who leads you is very important. So we've got a lot of teams releasing and signing new coaches. So we're going to start with Mineral and Boston. Is there anything that you want to say in this aspect based off of Uprising's performance last season?
Well, I heard on Twitter that they didn't have a head coach for the half of their season or something like that. I'm not sure if that was a rumor, if it was just conjecture or what, but always a new leadership. And, they started off really strong with Fusions as an IGL, and I know Blase is a very good player. I've seen him on East Coast for maybe 2 or 3 years. He's one of the best flex DPS, for North America, in my opinion. So I think that the results at the end of the season do speak for themselves in a way, and I think a little bit of personnel change to help lead them down the path that'll help kind of pull out their full potential, because they have talented players on that roster. There's no denying that. I'm really excited to see them play to their potential and hopefully evolve a little bit more as a team.
All right, so that's a very good point. I like Mineral. He's been involved in the community for a really long time, and anyone who's been able to be attached to the Tier 2 scene, too, especially for a team like Uprising, who like to scout, I think is going to be really good for the Tier 2 scene, too. There's going to be a little bit more opportunity, hopefully, in it general. So the next one's actually the biggest one. I think it was the latest one to be announced, and it's a very good guy, and I'm very happy for him. He gets to coach in his hometown, which is so cool.
He's from Houston?
He is. So it's going to be Harsha, who's going to be the new head coach of the Houston Outlaws. We were talking before the show that this has got to be a great move. Right?
Yes. Oh my God. This will be the Krusty to Shock of last year. 100%.
Statement, my friend.
I think it will. I mean, listen, as results speak for himself. I mean, I'm not going to take away from, the Vancouver Titans. Obviously, the roster was really talented, but I don't see them doing well in Overwatch as well as they did in Overwatch League without a brilliant coaching staff to help them settle in. Obviously, that team was really talented, but I mean, Harsha's rep speaks for itself. He's a big name. He's earned his spot. And from what you said, he's a nice guy too, which all the more reason to be more excited about it. I'm very happy. Like I told you before, I've been friends with Dante for maybe 3 or 4 years now. I'm really happy to see a big name coach be able to go over there, and I've got full confidence in that team to, tear it apart next year. I'm really excited to see what they can do.
Well, the only question I have, right, is kind of the resources that Harsha is going to have, right, versus the Titans versus the Outlaws, right? But if anyone's going to be able to do a lot with a little bit, it's him. And just to kind of piggyback off what you said, I think it's a good story to tell, because I was just a lowly esports guy in Burbank, California, back before New Year's, and I was lucky enough to be invited to an awesome party that Harsha ended up being at for New Year's. And I didn't really know a ton of people there, and I actually felt pretty sick that day, and it was Harsha and Avast who came out and just hung out with me the whole night. And ever since then, I was like, man, this Harsha dude, one, he's jacked, and two, he is and two, he's also a super nice guy. And I don't say this for a lot of people, but he deserves all the good things that come his way. Harsha, congratulations on your gig here. Do you have any final words on that one?
Good for him, especially after what happened with all the Washington stuff, where apparently he was going to go there at the start of the season, and then he goes to Vancouver and kicks ass. I love hearing stories like that. It's really inspirational. Good luck, man. We're all going to be rooting for you.
So quickly now for the next ones, because these teams are also going through some transitions. We got John Galt going over to Washington. A lot of people think that this is a very interesting decision, as John Galt, I think, has, he's a little bit of a polarizing figure I've seen on social media. Do you have anything to say here, or is just good luck, my friend?
I mean, good luck. Washington had the biggest turnaround in the league. And I'm very happy for Corey to see him. Corey's a really nice guy too. Really happy to see Corey doing well. Big pickups from Envy actually. I would love to play Ellie Volt and Lulzish. That would have been really, really fun. Too bad we didn't get the chance to. I love playing against good players, and we did take the map. I'm not gonna say.
You might have not. Were they in that game? They weren't in that game.
No,
they were already gone, right? You might have not won that map if you.
Yeah, we might not have won that map, but I would have loved the challenge. Good luck to all those guys. It's always great. Like I said, I love seeing change. I love seeing people adapt, and no doubt that team's gonna do well next season.
Awesome. Well, and if you guys at home are curious, Envy in Contenders last season lost one map, and it was to Samito's team, Triumph Gaming, and that's a big deal. And it was, I think the timing worked out since Lulzish and Ellie Vote. I think that was the week that they left, because in my opinion, Ellie Vote was probably at the time the best player in Contenders, especially in that group. So, no offense to you, but Ellie Vote was
I mean, my break was kind of clean, but I wasn't that good.
What Ellie Vote was a mystery heroes type of player and was playing really well throughout the season. So congratulations, and it's going to be good that they're finally going to have a new coach going in. So they're going to be new to the team and have a new coach. Maybe that'll be good for these new Contenders guys. Next up, we have Fifi from Toronto. Now in Toronto, was helping out some of the European teams before. He's a little bit of a journeyman himself, but just quickly, anything here?
Again, I feel like Toronto's kind of in the same spot that Washington was in, where they're continuously building, picking up Mengachu and Logix and a lot, I'm just gonna say a lot of people from our bracket and Contenders got picked up. Luckily, I'm glad I got to play Logix the first week though. I would, all the former Al players we get to play the better. But no, I think it's a good decision to continuously try to rebuild, especially when you're in that phase. You need to have a good figurehead, if that makes sense. And I think a lot of these names that people are picking up will be able to guide them to success. And again, all of these guys are really nice guys. I want to see them do well. I don't want to see a big disparity in the league where you have Vancouver, whatever the heck they were, 25-3 or something like that, and then Florida, which is 3-25. I don't know. I think they had 6 wins. I'm not sure, but I think these changes are good, and it'll be really interesting to see how it actually affects their season next year.
So these next two are the interesting ones, because I think Arrow and Kaikai are probably two of the most, I call John Galt polarizing. These guys are polarizing for sure. Yeah. Arrow is returning to the Fuel, also is the coach for Team USA for World Cup. And Kaikai moving on from another team. I think that's a lot in just as many years for Kaikai, another journeyman himself. So any opinions on either of these guys, either Arrow staying or Kaikai leaving?
Well, Arrow, keep looking after Zach. Good kid. Shout out to Zachary, man. That kid's awesome. I want to see him keep doing well.
He's a fellow tuba player.
Oh, is he? You play the tuba too?
Yeah, man. I majored in it. I majored in the tuba.
That's kind of sick. I'm not gonna lie. That's pretty awesome. I didn't know Zach could play the tuba. I'll have to talk to him about that. But
yeah. It was a Twitter status that I might have made up in my head, but I'm 99% positive he also plays tuba. He looks like he played the tuba. No offense as well. Whatever that means, right? But I'm telling you, he looks like he played the tuba for sure. So
we'll ask him. We'll ask him to figure it out. But yeah, no, I think Arrow going back to Fuel is not a surprise. I mean, they've probably got one of the most publicized coaching staffs out there. With Jane and Arrow. So no surprise there to me. For Kaikai, I don't really know. I don't know the guy. I didn't keep up with too much of his career. I do know he was on Houston last year, right?
Yeah, he was at Houston at some point.
At some point, okay. I don't know. These teams who had lower end results, it does make sense to try to change things up. I think Paris finished 15th. They were
not
roughly. So it's no surprise to see changes being made. They want to change things up, do better next season. That's all I can really say. I don't know any of the personal stuff behind the scenes, so I can't really comment on it accurately. So, I don't know.
what you do know personally is how to be coached, right? And what the role of a coach is. And the reason why we kind of blew through that is because, we're going to have more coaching changes probably. We're definitely going to have more player changes. But I think the coach is one of the more mysterious roles in esports. I think a lot of people coming in from traditional sports or meat sports, as we like to say, are confused as to what a coach does. So in your experience, what is the importance of a coach on the team? What is their role, particularly in what for you and how you appreciate a coach?
So for me, growing up, I played, pretty much every sport I could. I played, tennis, basketball, baseball, all this stuff. And I grew up in Kentucky. Okay. My coaches kept me disciplined. All right. If you back talk, you were on the line running. And it was very funny coming in, being coached by Fragon and Nat, because Fragon used to be in the Israeli military. Right. So we didn't run a military like structure, but one thing I learned right away is that they kept me disciplined, and they kept us disciplined. And it really showed throughout our play. Whenever we'd make dumb mistakes, the coach be in our ear saying, hey, like, don't do that, don't do that, don't do that. And that's how I learned to become a smarter player, is that, I continuously was being reminded of the mistakes, especially on Brig, like going from an aggressive DPS player to playing Brig. If I'm out of position, we lose the fight.
Yeah,
right?
Man.
So I fed hard the first 2 weeks. Right, I can tell you right now, I was not picked up for my Brig play when I tried out for Triumph. It was not my Brig play at the start, but because of the coaching and the reminders and the way that they allow me to think differently about my kit, it brought a new perspective to my play, and then allowed me to actually, in a way, it's like working on a muscle. It's like you have to go to the gym every single day and do the push-ups, do the sit-ups if you want to get in shape. And in that same sense, my coaches really helped me stay disciplined and keep my play proper. Now, again, I don't think I'm near my potential as a player. This was my first season. But in that first season, I was able to take a big step and not recede backwards because I was being an idiot in scrims or something, or feeding. Like they were that constant reminder, like you're conscious in a sense, saying, don't do this, or keep it this. And that's what I really appreciate about coaching, at least through my experience on Triumph.
You definitely had some fire moments on Ilios, I remember, throughout the season. But something that you mentioned, and something that I think some people are concerned about in the esports space, is that it's inherently negative, right? And the way that you were talking about is like, they were telling me what I was doing wrong, and and how to fix this and how to do that. How much positive influence is the coach giving you? Is it just traditional in an esports world to not really have that like strength-based feedback? There's a theory that like the Oreo cookie is the best way to receive coaching. Right? It's to be like, hey, your positioning was good here, but your aim sucked. But again, your positioning was good, right? What do you think of that kind of opinion? Because that is a concern for some people on the outside looking in, but you're there living it.
Well, I mean, I think it's easier for people to forget the good things that they're doing and focus on the mistakes. Like for me, that's just how I've been my whole life. Like if I make a mistake, I'm thinking about it. I'm not up at night thinking about the good play I made. I'm up at night thinking about the mistake I made and how I can change it the next day. So it's easy for me to forget like the good things that are being said. Fragon definitely would come in, and Nat as well when we did something right, be like, yeah, you guys did great with this. Absolutely. But for me, and I guess that's just might be my mentality being different. It was, I wanted to really focus on the mistakes because I'm playing catch up. Like I was playing catch up all season. Like these are guys, we're going up against teams. I mean, you look at the top of our bracket, you have Envy, XL2, Second Wind, veteran players. And I needed to focus more on my mistakes personally than I did on the things I was doing right so that I could improve faster. But no, I think that positive reinforcement is very, very good. And you need to reinforce positively once that change is made in the right direction, and then continuously enforce that, if that makes sense. Be like, yes, keep doing this, because some people forget we're human. But yeah, no, I think the Oreo cookie analogy is very good. Just me personally, I focused more on my mistakes so I could correct them.
Well, it's a balance, right? And that's another thing about a coach is you're not going to coach you the same way that I'm going to be coached as well, because we're different people, right? If we're doing the same thing to everybody, some people might really respond to that and others might not. And, you could make the argument that the role of the coach is to find 6 people that think the same way and this, and that. But in my opinion, a great coach is someone who's able to adjust the way that they provide information, provide feedback to that person and individualize it. Because to me, that is their job. Has that been your experience so far? I mean, Triumph was very successful. I think you guys are probably one of the more successful unsigned teams that we've seen in contenders. Other than Second Wind, of course, but that's a magical story there. I don't think anyone will ever get as close as that. But for you, like, would you say that rings true?
I would say overall, yes, because there's much more to Tier 2 and Overwatch and an unsigned team than just in the game. I would say media-wise, social media-wise, absolutely. I think in terms of the bigger picture, absolutely yes. No team has been able to do what we did. Period. End of story. To come. You know what? Actually, I think second one is a great story, but they got into contenders first and then had their success. I think the first season they were in contenders. It was rough. I don't think us, besides Clockwork and Vendetta, funny enough, we came from the same time, which is funny.
Yeah.
I don't think a team's gonna ever do what we did, ever. And not by record standings. I think another team could do better record standings, but I don't think a team is going to build a community, have such a great social media presence. Big shout out to Crook and Chase and the social media team for Triumph. Have the backing of Epic and Brad and all these people behind Triumph and getting something like KG. I don't think a story like that will happen again for a long time. And that was just fate. On God, that was just fate. It was chance that I ended up trying out for Triumph with Chopped. I was talking to Chopped and I was like, he's like, man, there's a spot opening up. I knew Hunts. I DM Hunts. Like, if we told you the whole story of everything that happened to bring short, like all the right pieces of the puzzle fitting in, like Epic told us this. He was like, guys, like we got the S+ player for every role that we wanted while in Tier 3. Like, and he said that they'd never seen anything like that. So I don't think anyone's ever going to do what Triumph did, and in terms of that. And it's just been such a great place. So
I know us in the casting world hold you guys up as kind of like the banner of what an unsigned team should do, because honestly, you guys are, in terms of social media presence and community, I think are doing better than 90% of the academy teams right now.
Take pride in that.
Y'all are way more engaged than a lot of other ones. We'll get into that when we get to your like personal interview a little later. And what that means. But I just wanted to say, like, what you guys are doing is amazing. Your branding, like you're all thinking about it, and that's a really big deal. And you can't say that for everyone involved. But that's enough for the coaching stuff. We're going to go ahead and move over to the Gauntlet, which I think has been the big Overwatch at Play news over the last week. I will never forget you, Tier 2 Cat. Love to you. So what did you think, basically, right? Like, let me talk personally just a little bit, because one, it was a little frustrating for me that Overwatch League didn't host until like the second or I think the third day of the Gauntlet.
Yeah, I saw that.
And they weren't streaming together, which was very interesting. So it was hard to see exactly how much viewership we got, but it was very volatile, the viewership. I remember it hitting like close to like 17K at one point, and then dropping down to close to like 18K at one point, which is kind of where North American contenders would like start their day. I think we'd peak around 3 or 4K and then go down. But Gauntlet was supposed to be the big coming out party. Did you feel like Tier 2 received that?
I think the loyal followers did 100%. I do agree. I wish Overwatch League and the Play Overwatch Twitch had hosted, and maybe a tweet from actual. I do wish that the actual Overwatch Twitter would promote one Overwatch League rather than just on the Overwatch League Twitter. Just the big events. I do wish to see that. I don't know. I think it could have been better, but I'm the kind of guy who's never satisfied, and I care a lot about this game. So I always want to see more and think about what's next. I think they did a decent job though.
Okay, so what would have been, like, you said decent, right? And I understand that you're someone who's hard to impress. I get that. But what was something that you were kind of just really needing, like the thing that was in the front of your mind that's like, man, I wish we were doing this, or I wish this had happened?
Oh, I want to see some contender skins in game. Those contenders home and away skins are clean. Like, we would get them in scrim lobbies, and I liked them a lot. I'd love to use them on live servers, and it'd be cool to have like tokens for that the same way as Overwatch League. Maybe just specifically for Gauntlet, sure, but it'd be a good way for players to support their favorite teams, because especially I think Vancouver doing so well this year really solidified the importance of Tier 2. So I would definitely love to see some more support from the in-game browser, or I'm pretty sure drops were. Was there an event going on for drops when Gauntlet was happening? I might be wrong.
I don't think so. I don't remember getting them. I could be wrong, but I was focusing on the co-stream with Lemon. We were getting into some shenanigans, so
okay.
I wasn't paying attention. But I don't think there were any drops. Completely honest, yeah.
Well, it would be cool to line up some kind of event for Overwatch, especially since the season's over. It'd be like one last chance to get your OWL tokens, and set it up for the contender stream just to see what kind of viewership you can get, because these games are good. These are like, you are going to see a lot of these players in Overwatch League next year. Like, I personally believe that. First of all, if Hawk's not now, I'm gonna be pissed. Okay,
I know, man. That dude is so good at Overwatch. It's insane.
I love the kid. He's a nice kid too. He's got a great work ethic on off stream.
So one question about Hawk though that really bothered me. Did you notice that when he would play the game, he would take off his glasses?
Yeah, I did.
And then when he stopped, he put them on, which like super weirded me out for some reason.
I mean, sometimes I can get like that too. I feel like when I'm like really in the game, I take off the glasses. I'm like, okay, this is try hard mode. Like, the glasses come off, like that's real sweaty. I'll ask him about that next time we play Borderlands. But
yeah, because it seems so counterintuitive, right?
Yeah.
Let me see less.
Maybe, well, if they're blue light filtering, then maybe sometimes it's not for like the actual vision, just like the headache that you're gonna get later. But I agree 100%.
I remember noticing it, and like 3 other people were like, "Wait, did he just take off?"
He's that badass. That badass, man.
I know, and the reason why he's so good is he was playing Sigma well throughout the entire, and he was literally playing next to one of the better Sigmas in Overwatch League, in Gator. And so that kind of brings me to the next question. This is a little on the lighter side. Did the best team win?
I think the best team did win. I mean, you could say, people could try to make the argument that Atlanta would win, but you can't go 3-2 then 4-1 and say that you're the best team. I think they're obviously the best team from North America, but the best team did win. It wasn't close enough to make the argument for Atlanta. I love the guys of Atlanta. They'd probably agree with me as well. But they definitely were the second best team. I think Runaway being 4-0'd was a very big deal.
The first time it had ever happened.
Yeah, I know. It's solidifying the importance of Tier 2, and I think that does really reflect well on I don't want to say NA, but just other regions, because I think 2 of Atlanta are EU.
Well, exactly. Kodak's from Germany and Astros from the UK. And so, but yeah, like, I think that's true. Like, the joke with NA was like, oh, no one on your team's actually from North America. But with Atlanta, that wasn't the case. The majority of the team was in North America and North American born. And one of them was 14 years old, Sugar Free, who I think had a star-making performance. Actually, a friend of mine, Labasco, has a Sugar Free in Owl countdown. I think we figured out it's season 6 is when he can get to Owl. And he has a countdown, counting down the days. And my most popular tweet ever is Sugar Free Owl MVP 2000, season 6. Even more than the one where I announced I was casting contenders, right? Gosh, that one sentence is my most popular tweet. But, that transitions again into the next question is, a lot of people said this season of North American Contenders was arguably the messiest that we've seen in a really long time. The parity from the top to the bottom seemed very separated. And something that we talked about in the pre-show was that middle ground was very obvious, right? It was kind of like the continental divide between the top half and the bottom half of teams. Do you feel like, though, in the end, Gladiators Legion took their match against the Chinese team, LGE Huya. XL2, I think, exceeded almost everyone's expectations.
I mean, put Speedily on Doomfist and a Doomfist meta, like,
I felt so smart, because I remember everyone being like, XL2's not going to do that great. And I was like, no, Speedily was playing Doomfist when it was bad, guys. Yeah. You got to understand.
Yeah, I think he was secretly busted then. There was just other more broken stuff in the game. And so, you're absolutely right. I mean, Speed, again, 14, kids are so young and so good. It's crazy.
OG's will forever be legendary.
Yes.
But do you think in the end, I think North American teams performed well, and do you think the gap is actually closing? It seems like that in some other esports, where we had our first non-Korean winner last year at BlizzCon for StarCraft. We've had varying results in terms of League of Legends, but here in Overwatch, do you think that the gap is closing in terms of, is Korea the juggernaut that it's always been, right? Shock won finals over an all-Korean team. Atlanta beat 2 Korean teams on the way to the final. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I know the gap's definitely closed. I think gaming becoming more mainstream in the United States in general is going to help solidify that gap being closed over the years. Because, I mean, from what I understand, in Korea, the gaming culture is fully embraced, and it wasn't until last year where gaming culture was really accepted in North America. Obviously, I don't think that has to do with it, right here, right now. I think people worked hard. I mean, no one's going to sit here and talk about how you would see the Sugar-Free Hawk Gators 3-stack every day on East Coast for hours on end for the past year and a half. Those kids grinded. They lived, slept, and ate this freaking game. All right, they played the crap out of it. They worked hard, and their work got paid off. And at the end of the day, the results this season really show if you're willing to put in the work. It doesn't matter who you are, where you're from. That's why I love gaming so much. It's your height doesn't matter, your skin color doesn't matter, your gender doesn't matter. At the end of the day, if you do the work and you have the ability, you can do it. And that's what's been shown. The gap's been closed, and I can't wait to see what's going to happen in the coming seasons.
Yeah, and something that's exciting, I wasn't able to get it on here because it was just released today, but Revival, an all-female support line, which is something that we've never seen before, and that's so exciting. That's so cool, and you got to give credit to those two girls because they were fine streaming, right? They're two of the most popular Overwatch streamers out there, right?
Yeah, I respect it.
Yeah, and Aspen was like, you know what? This isn't enough for me. France saying the same kind of thing, and you got to respect the fact that you're a pretty popular streamer too. You know what it takes to make that kind of sacrifice, and you got to give him props for that.
Oh yeah, 100%. And I gotta shout out the man who started it all, Kefri, going to freaking Pacific Contenders. He had everything, and he said, you know what? I'm gonna prove everyone wrong. I would not have joined Triumph if I didn't talk to Kefri about like his journey and trying to get into it. So a lot of respect to Fran and Aspen. If I give you any advice, it's stick with it. It's gonna be freaking frustrating, especially when you start playing the better teams. Like we were getting rolled by Contenders. Well, we weren't getting rolled, but we improved dramatically over the span of Open Division to the end of Trials to get into Contenders. More so enough to where if we had played Montreal in the first week of Trials compared to the first week of Contenders, I don't think we would have won that game.
I agree with that. With my Contenders brain as well. Yeah. Montreal was a very interesting team last year. They didn't seem to get better. They seemed to have stayed in in one place in week 2 and then just kind of stayed there the whole season as other teams got better, like Triumph, right? But we're getting a little off subject here. So the other thing that I wanted to talk about is personally, we talked about OG, we talked about Sugar Free, but overall in Contenders Gauntlet, did you find yourself connected to anyone where you're like, that person needs to be an owl? Was a star born that maybe wasn't quite there when they reached Gauntlet? And we can talk about casters too if you want.
I think, well, I'd love to see Leg Day and Jaws an owl just because the haircut, 100%. The haircut. I think we need that haircut. I think we need that haircut. Mainly Hawk, just because I think he's like the only eligible player. I think everyone else who is there that was already good is kind of known. Yeah. Okay, listen, if Element Mystic, I'm looking at you, teams who need Korean players, okay? If this entire roster doesn't get picked up, I'm going to be mad. I'm going to be mad because here's the thing. If you look at what Runaway did at Vancouver this year, it proved itself. Pick up the whole damn team and put them in the league. Maybe I think Seoul should consider picking up some of these players. I think Florida Mayhem is the #1 team that I think should pick up some of these players. I mean, they wanted to go all Korean, and if you look at the best Korean roster in Contenders, to me, it's a no-brainer. I think London as well, with a couple of their spots opening up, should be looking to pick up a lot of these players. I expect to see a lot of these Tier 2 players in Overwatch the next season. I'd be really sad if they're not.
Yep, this iteration of Atlanta Academy is done for, I think. Gator will be gone. Hawk will probably be gone. And very interesting about Hawk is I've talked to a lot of Tier 2 players recently, and all of you guys mentioned Hawk as the one person. Yeah, as the person. He strikes me as like one of the biggest brained people in Contenders and maybe in Overwatch League, and he obviously has the drive. And I just remember being so impressed when the first time I ever cast him, the first time I ever cacawed in a cast, was when he would just be able to just do things on Diva that other people in Contenders, other than Ellie though, just couldn't do.
He's a special player. He's a special player.
And everyone says that. You don't find that very often. You know what I mean? And so, man, I hope he does well because he obviously deserves it based off of what all of you guys are saying about him. But in the end, for me, I think it was our youngins that really showed up. OG, Speedily, Sugar Free was already pretty well known, but I think Speedily was kind of for me, the star of a lot of that XL2 stuff, right? Especially since he is so little. All you want to do is pinch his cheeks when he's on camera, man. He's so adorable.
Too. Did you know that?
Oh, no, I did not. So we'll talk about that because if it weren't for Minecraft, we might not have Overwatch. But we'll talk about that a little bit later because all you guys have been playing a lot of Minecraft recently. So we're going to talk a little bit more about Contenders because there are some huge changes coming through. And just like I think a lot of people, I think most of us are 70 to like 90% sure of what's happening here. And just in summary, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I'm going this by what I believe is they're changing the entire landscape of what Overwatch Contenders is going to be. And for the viewers who don't quite understand what Contenders is, it's the feeder system into Overwatch League, is what it's supposed to be. And the last 4 or 5 seasons has been a league-oriented type of system where eight teams in this group, 8 teams in this group, all around the world, with 6 of those 8 teams making the playoffs. And something that would happen a lot would be like a 1-win team would go into the playoffs. Gladiators Legion, who ended up making it into the gauntlet, was 1 map away from not even making it into the playoffs. They were 6th place, but because so many teams made it in, they were able to make the playoffs and end up going to the gauntlet in the end. And the way that it used to work is Contender teams, if they made the top 6, they were automatically in the next season of Contenders. They did not have to go through Open Division, but it's going to change a little bit because now everyone is potentially going to be going through Open Division because there's going to be 3 extra seasons of Open Division and 3, Contenders proper tournaments that are double elimination. And so they're just getting rid of the league play. So it's kind of like a league is like the big square with the tournaments being like the little squares. This is huge. So what does this mean for the landscape in your opinion? Because my original thought was it provides less incentive for academy teams and more incentive for more people to participate. What do you think about that?
I agree with that wholeheartedly. I think the one thing that they should reevaluate is how many teams actually stay in Contenders from what I've read. I think it's a little too RNG based off how you could get in the bracket. Because from what I read, you could lose 2 games and be in Open Division. I might be totally wrong there. I haven't, again, read too much into it. But I do think it's very good for Tier 3 teams. And I think that Trials as a tier, and we've talked about the imbalance of Contenders. I think Contenders right now is very imbalanced between the top and the bottom. The difference in those teams is very, very evident. And realistically speaking, the bottom tier Contenders teams are probably Trials level, and to have a better structure for competing around the Trials level to the bottom level of Contenders and the higher level of Open Division is definitely something that was needed. Let's be real. It was probably a waste for Triumph, for example, to play through all of Open Division, where we probably could have gone to a Trials level from the moment our roster was formed, right? I mean, obviously we had to develop a lot as a team, but the first several weeks of Open Division just weren't really worth it. So when a team like that emerges, to have them be able to be scouted and play consistently at a Trials level is much better for the scene. I would like to see a slight rework to the actual Contenders level of play. I think that there should be at least 8 teams in Contenders at all times. I'm not sure how many there are right. I think maybe only 4 or something like that.
Are they keeping East and West? I don't even know.
I don't even know either. I don't think they are. I don't think they are. I think it's just.
I wouldn't if I were them. There's no point at this point in time because everyone can play together and the best teams will rise to the top is the intent.
I agree with that, but if there's no East and West, then I don't see why there shouldn't be 8 teams. Because here's the thing: there's 7 academy teams in Contenders right now. I think there's 7. There's Boston, Montreal, Atlanta, XL2, Gladiators Legion. Envy, one more.
At least 6.
at least 6. I think there's one more. I might be but let's say there's 6. I might be totally brain farting right now. How are you going to convince the other 5 NA Overwatching teams to come into Contenders and have a roster, which they all want to do to help develop talent? As kind of Atlanta showed this season, they have a lot of talent. They brought Gator in for playoffs. He popped off. How are you going to convince those teams to come in if oh man, you guys can be back in Open in 2 losses and you'll be playing at the Trials level? I don't think that's a very good model to actually get more Contenders academy teams. Which is why I think they should widen the scope. But other than that, I think it'd be good. And they also need to make double elimination to get out of Contenders. In Trials, you shouldn't just be able to lose 1 game in Trials and then go to Open Division. That's what people were saying. I don't know if that's 100% accurate, so don't quote me on that. But if that's the current system, I think that should be reworked. I would like to see pools of play the same way that Contenders was done this season. Just 4 teams on one side of Trials, 4 teams on the other side of Trials. They all play each other, and then the bottom ends of that, in terms of map score, will go down instead. That way it's more consistent and gets more games in for scouting.
So there are definitely pros and cons, right? I think to this new system. I'm pretty sure that if you never drop down, you actually play way less than all of the other teams. So you actually get less time on the field because you'll only be playing during the contenders tournaments, right? You're not going to be playing through open division. So these open division teams are going to get more play time than assuming these academy teams are going to stay up, right? And I don't know how I feel about that particularly, but the pros of this is the fact that players that might not otherwise have had an opportunity to play at a stage like this will now be able to be shown off, right? The story of Second Wind might become a little bit more common because of the way this is brought out in the formatting of it all. I mean, do you agree with the pros and cons? And what are some pros and cons for you that maybe you haven't discussed just yet?
I think that pro is really, really good. I agree. I think it's great to have more talent be showcased, but at the same time, more people want to watch contenders. You know, they want to watch these high-level players play. If you take that away, that's going to take away a lot from contenders. So that's why I want to see the pool system again, in a sense that where it's not just, you know, you can't play like that much. Put all these best teams together in a regular season, not separated by, you know, East and West, and then have them go into playoffs. I'm sure that can be manageable, but the con is that you won't see a lot of these better teams playing from what you, based off what you said, and I agree that really does stink. But the pro is that the high tier 3, low tier 2 talent is going to be able to showcase itself more and more, giving more players the chance to rise to the academy level, get that talent scouted, and then have these academy teams develop these players into potential Overwatch League players, because that's what Contenders is meant to be.
Yeah, so I think the other thing that you mentioned is the word development, right? Which is, I think, something that has been a little harder to achieve. I think very few teams have done it well in terms of academy teams. I think really Envy has developed some good players, Atlanta's developed some good players. I think XL2's on their way to be that kind of team. But I think the gold standard in terms of academy teams has got to be Atlanta Academy. So in your opinion, what is the point, right? How do you develop? What is development for you? What should these academy teams or these new contenders teams be trying to do for their players?
Build good habits, build a good brand, and make your players marketable for Overwatch League. You gotta, you know, show these people the game at the highest level of play. Like, let them know, listen, like, we want you to do well in contenders, but at the end of the day, this is tier 2. This is not tier 1. Your goal is not to go in. I mean, your goal should be to win, right? That's like why you play. Your goal is to win, but your main goal should be to improve, to get to the top. And that might just be how I think. Like, you know, that's why I wasn't super nervous like coming to contenders. It was like, okay, this is a part of the stepping stone. Like I want to, if I want to get to Overwatch League, I have to become a much better player. I have to develop good habits. Like, I wasn't necessarily pissed that, okay, I was mad that we were losing because I don't like losing. That's, but aside from that, I was like, okay, did I learn? Make your players learn. Make your players marketable. Develop good habits so that one day they can make Overwatch League. And when Hawk makes Overwatch League, he'll be the perfect example of it. It's a shame Sugar Free can't because he's too young, but these guys work their tails off. They got a damn good work ethic, and they prove their stuff over the season. And that's exactly how you have to do it. Gold standard.
And the Path to Pro is not just for players, too. It's for coaches. Again, I think that's something that's understated. I think it's for casters as well. I think this new format will allow Blizzard to use like a bunch of different casters. They'll be able to potentially have 2 pairs for the regular tournaments, 2 pairs for the open division tournaments, and they could switch. So I think we are going to see more personalities come through. And then the last thing on this contender stuff is, you know, you said you're not quite worried about it. I think Triumph is in a good place. You guys have the branding. You got KG. Kevin Garnett backing you guys up. You got an amazing social media team, so you guys are feeling good. So if you were to talk to somebody who might be on an academy team that's like, I might not get to play, would it be a better idea to try to get on a team like Triumph, where you're tier 2, right, as opposed to working through open division and the like? So basically what I'm trying to say is academy, like being on an academy team used to be how you got into Overwatch League, right? That was you started an open, then you got into a team like Triumph, then you got into an academy team, then you got scouted for Owl, right? Do you think that's as necessary anymore?
No, I don't think it is. I think it depends on the academy team. I've heard good things about some academy teams and very bad things about other ones. Obviously, I'm not going to say which one because I don't know if it's true or not, but I think at the end of the day, if you work hard at contenders, and your talent will be found, regardless of where you are. If you're that good and you have the right work ethic, it'll happen. But you got to do the work. It's that simple. You got to sit down. You can't just work hard. You got to work smart. That's one thing that I've learned from having to, you know, build a stream and compete at the same time. It's very hard to manage everything. Work smart and hard, and you'll find yourself where you need to be. Again, like, you know, if you look at, I hate to use Hawk as an example for everything, but I do believe the kid will be an owl. You know, he started on phase 2 back in the day. A team I was a sub on, like way back in the day when it was like Marshall or more, Insom, Hawk, Dupe, all those guys. Then made his way to Atlanta after that.
Yeah.
Good roster, good guys, man, good guys.
That's a boomer roster right
yeah.
there.
Very true. But no, it's you know, it's if you're that good and you work hard, it's not about being insane or popping off. It's about having the right work ethic. If you have that, your talent will be found. Just continue to work at it and work smart.
Well, you got to work smart, and this is a great transition because the next section that we like to call here is called "Wait, That's Not Overwatch," where we take 5 minutes to talk about something that's not Overwatch related. You know, we talk about Overwatch all the time. We live, eat, and breathe it. And you it's like you're hosting the show, man. You perfectly transitioned into it with your no, man, it's perfect. Because you mentioned something that's really, really important, not just in Overwatch, not just in a game like Call of Duty or Hearthstone or anything else, just in esports, is you're not going to be successful in this industry unless you sweat a little bit, and people can take a back seat in terms of their mental health in this industry, because one, it can be kind of negative sometimes, right? It's internet based, right? I'm sure the both of us understand what it's like to have people hate us online, right?
Oh, even though Jesus, you don't even know them. You never spoken a word to them.
Exactly.
They're like, oh, I hate this guy. It's like, dude, I've never spoken to you. What the heck?
Exactly. But like, even though there might be 10 other people who are like, I like these guys, the one person who's negative is the one that like comes through, and it's hard to overcome that and work through that. You have to build a little bit of a thick skin. And so those are the two things. You got to have a thick skin, you got to work hard, and you got to work smart, like you said. So you mentioned that work ethic is one of the most important things in your life, something that you believe in. And why is it important to you? What does work ethic represent just to you, and why does it make you feel good about yourself?
Your work ethic defines who you are, in my opinion. You want to surround yourself with people that are as hardworking as you. That's one thing I've learned. That's one of the most important things I've learned, is you want to surround yourself with who you want to be. I've lost a lot of friendships, to be honest with you, of people who disagreed with my lifestyle and my work ethic. And it was a shitty feeling. Like, there's no other way to say it. But, you know, being able to come at something smart and having a good commitment to it. And what I mean by smart is, don't try the same thing over and over and over again and expect different results. For example, one thing that I learned in my journey is, you know, I tried streaming Overwatch on Twitch for a while. I had a decent sized stream. I was maybe like 50 viewers, 100 viewers, maybe on a good day, right? And I was like, man, this just is not working. Like, I need to try something different. So I tried to stream on YouTube where I was uploading my content. And then all of a sudden, one stream, 150 viewers. Next stream, 200 viewers. And then in just 1 week's worth of time, I was at 300 viewers on one stream. And the main point of that is you can't continue. I think this was Einstein's definition of insanity. I might be totally
It is. No, you're correct.
Okay, what the heck? I can't believe I forgot that. Don't try the same thing over and over again and expect different results. Don't be scared to change. If you're failing, that doesn't mean you're going to fail in the long run. Like, I define myself from my mistakes. I'm going to tell a story right now, a small one, about the start of our contender season, okay?
Yep.
I remember being so frustrated after this block, so frustrated, okay? So the reason I decided to compete was when I was ringing for phase 2, I was a sub, and I rang a block against Montreal, and we got smacked. Like, absolutely smacked. And I left out. I was like, guys, I'm so sorry. Like, I played like crap. They're like, dude, it's okay. You're a ringer. Like, you know, we had a tough season, blah, 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 whatever. And I was like, that didn't sit right with me. I was pissed, right? After that day, I was like, all right, I'm trying out for Triumph. I'm going to try out for Triumph. I'm going to work through Open Division. I don't care how bad I look. It doesn't matter. First block we played on Brig, I hard fed. It was against Wave Check, right? Juby was in Discord after that, in the general Discord. Oh, dude, Sam's Brig is trash. He was so bad. It pissed me off so much. I called his ass out on it. I was like, dude, like, don't say that crap. Like, blah, blah, blah. Like, you know, we're friends. Like, I'm working hard. Like, and he was like, yeah, okay, I get it. You know what happened after that? I sat down and I freaking grinded my Brig. I watched Libero VODs. I watched all this other stuff. And that's where working smart comes in. You have to put in the work and that frustration. And you know what? You know who we played the first week of contenders? Montreal. We won 3-1. So taking that frustration that you have from being not good enough and turning that into your motivation to become better. I'm still doing that. Like right now, I'm probably at about 20% of my pitch. I'm not even close to done yet. But if you're just starting up, and you want to get to that point, don't let your frustration hold you down. Turn that into your work ethic. Work hard, work smart, look at what the best are doing right, and adapt that to your own play style, whether that's through streaming, through schoolwork, through trying to go pro, whatever it is that you want to do. Turn your frustration into your work ethic. Look at what the best in the world are doing and adapt your style to that in a way that could only be you. That's all I can really say about that one. It's been a grind, man. It's been a freaking grind. But
I feel you, man. I've been grinding for a while myself. And so, kind of like to summarize what you said, it's kind of like when you're feeling anxious about your particular failures, right? The only way to not feel anxious anymore is to work on it, right?
Yeah.
It's to change, right? If you don't do anything, you'll just always feel anxious, right? And you have to give that frustration an avenue, right? Because if you don't, it's self-destructive. And if you and it's healthier to give it a place to go than it is to leave it inside and not do anything about it. And so, yeah, I really respect what you said because, everyone in esports is on the grind. And like I said, it takes a certain mentality to be successful. You do have to look at people who are successful, and you can't be afraid to reach out as well, right? Like you have to be vulnerable in order to gain strength. And being vulnerable, I think, is where we learn the most in our world. I think the number one piece of advice that I would give, though, is just say, hey, when it comes to feedback, right? Like, don't listen to everybody. Don't be a sponge. Be a filter, right? Because some people are there just to bring you down. You don't know how this person thinks about you, right? Or
cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
Yeah. It could be a friend of yours who's afraid to tell you the truth, right? Like you got to be a filter, not a sponge. You can't take everything in because again, that can be mentally taxing as well. That's not working smart either. And I think you've represented the qualities of all of that stuff, which I think transitions into our personal interview deep dive coming in, because what we want to know, and I think what a lot of people want to know, especially people in your position, you've got tens of thousands of followers, my friend. You're well known in the community. Basically, you're someone who puts a tweet out and many people will react to it, right? We'll talk about Moira in just a second. And so, but what I wanted to start with is something on the lighter side is how you got here, right? Like, how did you develop that social following? Because that's something that I'm struggling with right now. And I know a lot of people who are very, very talented who make content but might not understand that Twitter part of it, that social media part of it. So what's your origin story when it comes to streaming? You mentioned Minecraft and then developing your community.
Yeah, so it all started in Minecraft. It was honestly a little bit of luck, a lot of hard work, but a little bit of luck. It was when I was 16 or 17. I stumbled upon a server with my friends. Started doing Minecraft PvP. That server ended up becoming the biggest server in the world, right? Just dumb luck. I practiced the game. I enjoyed playing the game. I wanted to get really good at the game. I got a reputation for myself on their site and in-game as one of the better players. It's like, you know what? I'll start doing YouTube. So in general speak, I accumulated merit, right? I became a credible person through my play. That would be what separates me from the rest. You got to ask yourself when getting into streaming and content creation, first off, what's going to separate you from the rest? Why are people going to watch you? What's your trump card, right? I worked hard. I became staff on the server. Then I became an administrator, one of like 7. I managed their entire Clans game mode, and I managed their YouTube channel, which we built to like 250K in a month and a half, something crazy like that. Really, really tough work.
That's the dream, man.
Yeah, never happened again. We put the link in game, and it popped off. And again, that wasn't just my work, but like being able to work with other people and accepting help. Big shout out to Zachary, Dante, and KSF, who have messaged me a ton this season about advice and stuff like that, and help me keep my head on straight for Brig Jail. So I had the help of other people. That's the Minecraft side of the story. That's where I met Dante and all these other guys. Then I moved over to Overwatch, and my channel took a big hit. I was like, I don't want to do this on my Minecraft channel. I want to start a new one. So again, I went through the same process. I accumulated merit. There's 2 things that you need to understand as a content creator in this day and age. 1, get your merit. What's your trump card? What makes your content something that people want to watch? 2, marketability. It doesn't matter how good your content is if you don't know how to get it out there and advertise it the right way. On YouTube, it's good thumbnails, tags, understanding YouTube's recommendation system, all this other stuff. That's why I like streaming on YouTube, because if I know this stuff, there's a skill element to it where, okay, I know how to title my videos. I know how I have a good thumbnail maker. I can edit my stuff well. This is how I'm going to push my stuff. I understand the system. I'm going to do that. That's the marketability aspect of it. One good example would be Crook. His tweets are hysterical. Frogger, their tweets are hysterical. They word things in a way that's relatable to other people to get their content out there. Granted, the edits are good, but it doesn't matter how good the edits are if you aren't putting it forward properly. So there's 2 steps. Get the right content, get merit, and then find the way to get it out there properly. I just got kind of sidetracked, I think, for a while, but yeah, that's how I got into Overwatch. It all started with Minecraft. The Minecraft story I could tell for like literally an hour and a half and not let up. So I'm just gonna skip that. I played Minecraft. I joined a big server. I became an admin on that server. I did YouTube on that server, and then I was really into Player vs. Player. Met Dante and a bunch of other guys. They showed me Overwatch right when it came out, and then we transitioned over because I fell in love with the game. And now here I am.
That's awesome, man. And if you're wondering, hey, why does it feel like Minecraft gets brought up a lot in Overwatch? This is why. Like, I honestly believe that if Minecraft didn't exist, we would be missing 10 to 20 of like Overwatch's like biggest stars. You know, like if Overwatch didn't exist, would Apex have a pro scene? We don't know.
No, it wouldn't. Oh my goodness.
But I mean, Overwatch might be that to Minecraft, which is so funny because whenever I hear about it, like when I think of Minecraft, I just think of like the blocks, right? What people don't understand is like, you know, there's a Minecraft games done quick version, right? There's speedruns you can do. There's PvP. Like there's a ton of other really creative things that the players have been able to bring about and customize for themselves, and why it's so good to make content off of Minecraft too, because it can be very personal. So it's just a very, very interesting way of saying that, like, you guys there's a lot of Minecraft in Overwatch. It's kind of like the hidden like stream into our community, which is very, very interesting. So we talked about your start. So did you finally feel like you were successful? Do you feel like you're successful now? What was your kind of like first taste of, you know, I'm on the right track?
It's crazy how quick you adjust. Like I said, I'm the kind of guy who'll never be satisfied in life. I'll always want to do the next thing. I don't rest among the laurels. That's just who I am. But I would say the first time I really felt successful in the Overwatch community was watching my videos get snowball recommended and noticing it. Like, okay, like, dude, this video got 10K views in one day. That's never happened before. Oh, this video got 20K views in one day. That's never happened before. Like, seeing the actual YouTube algorithm, like, push your content and then seeing your viewership grow day by day, that's a really good feeling. I was like, okay, yes, I'm where I am. But to be honest, like, I've seen it all as stepping stones. I have a goal that's going to take me 20 years to achieve, and I know that going into it, so I don't want to lose focus. I wouldn't say I'm successful yet. I would not. I want to do more. I want to change the world through gaming. That's my goal. I want to make a game that wins Game of the Year. I want to, you know, help bring the world together through esports and gaming. That's my life goal. And seeing Overwatch League do what it does has been the main reason why I want to make the league and help be a part of that. I think that Blizzard Entertainment and Overwatch specifically, and I guess the COD World League as well, are going to do things for the planet that we've never seen in a million years. And that's why I was really frustrated with the Hong Kong thing, is that, and again, I don't want to talk about this too much because I'm politically neutral on pretty much everything, because I don't know, is people forgot kind of what Overwatch League is going to do for the world just because of this instance. And I don't want people to forget that. I want people to understand that, you know, how much grief we give this game. This league will be the league that changes everything. I firmly believe that. I'm gonna do everything I can to make that league and help do that. So I don't know. I wouldn't say I'm successful yet. I've got a long way to go. I'm probably 10% of the way there, maybe not even that. Really excited for the journey, though. No idea where I'm gonna end up, but excited for the challenge.
Yeah, well, and to any of the youngins in the chat, something that you said that I would only say about 10% of people, 10 to 15% of people do, is you said goal setting. And I don't think a lot of people sit down and say and write down their goals, right? That I'm going to do this, right? Yeah, no, seriously. Like when I was doing a lot of mentoring for like tier 3, tier 4 casters, I required them to sit down and do a short term, a midterm, and a long term goal, right? And it was amazing how none of them had done it before. Literally, none of them had sat down and actually like focused on actual goal setting. It's different to have a dream and say, I want to be in Overwatch, right? But to sit down and say, my goal in the short term is to be on a tier 3 team. In 2 years, I want to be here, right? Like you have to give yourself achievable goals too, because if you set them too high, right, you're just gonna be filled with failure, right? And then you're gonna hit the grind, and it's gonna be hard to keep going.
One step at a time. one step at a time. Really
Exactly. So set your goals. It's so very important, no matter what you're doing, whether it be in the traditional spaces of work, whether you're working in social media or social work, right? Like you got to set your goals. But now, like you're saying that you don't feel successful, and you think that Overwatch is going to change the world. And, this Hong Kong situation, I think, has worried a lot of people just in general, right? How would you like for Overwatch League to change the world, right? You mentioned that you think it's going to happen. How is it going to happen?
I think it's going to bring people together with a common interest, that language doesn't barrier. There's no language barrier. It's just, you and the game.
Yeah.
I felt that way about sports my whole life. It's just you and the game. Nothing else matters. And I think that Overwatch is going to be able to reach to a group of people, and gaming in general is going to be able to reach to more people that other sports never could do. You look at the Olympics and basketball and, whatever the heck you want to look at, there's a very demanding physical requirement out of that, and gaming does not have that requirement. It doesn't matter if you're 6'5" and can dunk like me, for example.
Yeah, hashtag humble brag.
Don't question that. Yeah, don't question that. It's just,
no, I 100% believe you. That's for sure. My bullshit meter is not going off right now.
We'll see. We'll see if BlizzCon, but or if you're like 5 foot tall and can't dunk, unlike me. None of that matters, and that's why I think this is going to be so important. This is the first time in the world we've seen that happen, and I think that seeing all the people in Guangzhou for like their watch party of the playoffs that got tweeted out, that was a special moment. I think we're really going to see it happen at the homestands this next year, where we're all over the world. It's one small step, and it's frustrating that we can't just jump to that point where the world is kind of unified and there's people like. I hate to go out about world peace. I don't care about that stuff, because who the hell am I to say anything about that? But at least through gaming, I want everyone to have the same experience that I did playing this game and games growing up, like Modern Warfare 2 and all the old Call of Duties, Minecraft, et cetera, et cetera. I think having localized events with people shown from all kinds of different cultures is going to be a very big factor in that. So mainly the homestands next year is what I'm really excited to see. I think it's just going to bring a lot of people together that never would have met.
Yep. One of the greatest metaphors I've heard when it comes to gaming is gaming can be like music. It can be universal, right? Like it doesn't matter what language you know. Like this is a terrible example, but I'm going to use it because I know in esports there's a lot of fans out there that love us some K-pop, right? do we know a word they're saying? No. Right? But do we love it? Yes. Right. And so that's a very juvenile example, but that's pretty much what you're saying, right? I mean, if you say you could dunk, I could say that K-pop can
fair.
Right?
That's fair. I mean, the only thing I could dunk on might be a Fisher Price, but it's still a dunk, right? So I am worried about it. But
man, I wonder what it's like to be able to dunk. I was a big sports guy myself, huge into tennis too. It was interesting that you said that. I got pretty deep into it, but basketball, man, that was the one sport that just I could not play. I do not know why, but I'm awful at basketball. Oh man, I'm already PTSD fifth grade right now, getting picked last.
Oh god.
Yeah, because I was also real chubby. I was real big. I weigh the same now as I did in the 6th grade. And so man, I was so bad at basketball.
I still have chubby cheeks, man. I can't. They'll never go away.
Hey, you know what? You still got a lot of time left. So that's the basically what I wanted to get from you is just kind of hey, you got your start. You've developed a community. You obviously have a big work ethic, and so we've talked about that stuff. So let's now talk about your future, right? What are you looking forward to next year, right? We don't know with teams. Are you still going to be with Triumph? Are you planning on being with Triumph unless further notice? And what are you excited about going into next year? Maybe even not even Overwatch related.
Well, for one, I have not made my final decision as if I'm going to compete next season. It's going to depend on a lot of things, and those pieces of the puzzle have not come together yet. But that decision will be made in the coming months. I'm waiting for one BlizzCon. I want to see if they announce another game, because if they announce Overwatch 2, it definitely would be beneficial, at least financially, to pursue full-time content creation of the new game, because we've seen the reward cap for streaming. It's freaking unbelievable, right? And I think influence comes from money equals influence in a way. It's not an end, but it's a means to an end. So I have to consider things financially, because if I want to change things realistically, you're going to need fuel for the fire, right? And it's going to come down between that and what my community wants is most important to me, because those people are freaking hysterical. They spam the heck out of the Doritos, and those people are easily the most important things in my life. And then, you know, this contender system too. Like, I don't know what the heck's going on. I'm gonna have to read up on it all the way. But I've got to weigh a lot of different things about that decision. Hell if I know, man. I don't know what I'm gonna be doing. I don't know.
Hey, you know what, man? I've been saying that for the last 10 years.
Yeah,
so
but that's the fun of it. What's the fun of life if you know where you're going? I got no.
Sure.
I've waited my whole life. I've waited my whole life. I got B's in my classes in high school because, you know, am I doing my homework tonight? I don't know. You know, my teachers would love the excuse for why it wasn't done, but then they'd, you know, be like, okay, we know you didn't do it, Sam. Like, calm down. I don't know, man. It's no fun if you know where you're going. I'm just gonna wish you the best and work my ass off with whatever it is I want to do.
Yep. You know, it's so funny. I feel like some of the most successful people I know are the ones who did the worst at school. So that is not a you want to try your best, right? You want to learn, but it's not all about grades. Because I also failed a couple classes myself, and I ended up becoming a teacher. Was my first career. So yeah.
Wait, what'd you teach?
Band. Yeah, I taught band, and then I taught school for a while, and I was like a special education specialist for early childhood education. And then I got into sales at a game company, and that's when like my whole like esports was like, I could do this, right? It was like, yeah. And then I got to, you know, and the company that I worked with did a lot of work with Disney, so I got to go to a lot of theme parks for work, which was awesome. And then I quit because I wanted to pursue casting, and I wanted to not be able to say, you know, my biggest fear was that in 10 years I'd look back and see myself on this momentum, right, and say, you know what, I didn't go for it, right? I had the opportunity. Right, like, because where I am, I'm really lucky to be a caster for contenders. I don't know where I'm going to be next year. I don't know if they're bringing me back. Fingers crossed, hopefully. Right.
I did a good job.
You know, I personally think I deserve it, but the big thing is like, in 10 years, like, I want to be able to say, you know what? If I fail in this, I still gave it my all, man. And maybe it was these things, you know, outside of my control, or maybe I just wasn't what they were looking for. But you know what? I gave it my all, and regardless if I fail or succeed, I'll always have that. And that's why I made that transition. And I hope other people are able and capable of doing it. I'm lucky to be in a situation where I'm able to do something like that, but I feel very lucky, especially because I love my community. And that's something that you mentioned yourself. What does community mean to you?
I mean, community is what defines me. I have my work ethic, and I have the people around me, because I realize is the core of my person hasn't really changed too much over the course of the years. But what makes me special, and I think about this literally every day, and I hate to sound cheesy like that, but I finally understand what influencers say when they say, I think about something like this every day. Every single day I contemplate what separates me, like why am I where I am? And the answer to that is the people who watch me. It's the people that have been brought into my life. It's the people that I met. It's the people that drive me. I wouldn't have been able to do any of this without the people around me. So what community is, it's me in that sense. Like, these people are how I define myself. Is that weird to say?
You know, I think if I were to challenge that, right, it would be like, you know, we don't want to define ourselves by what people think about us, right? But I think what you're trying to say is,
I do what I do for these people, if that makes sense.
It's part of it, right? You're obviously doing it for yourself too, but like in the end, the community is something that kind of props you up, right? If you fall, those hands are going to be there for you, right? Like, and that's what the most amazing thing. They're your support system, and that's something about community that I think is really, really important.
It's like a family in a sense. It's like, if I fall, they have my back, but if they fall, I also have them. It's like a two-way street, and that's what I love about my community so much. Is we're a bunch of trolls. Like, that's just the reality. Like, they're the clowns and I'm the ringleader of the circus. It's kind of like how we like to look at it.
Circus Samito, right?
Yeah. I just love them, man. It's God. I hope that makes sense. It probably doesn't, but
I think it does. I think I'm
they're my
put your
people.
feet down.
They're my people.
And so so I have two more questions for you. And one, I think, is probably the thing that you've been known about over the last couple weeks, especially on Twitter. I'm going to give you a minute and a half. Tell me about Moira. What is what is the issue here? So, like, I know a lot of people have those counter arguments, right? And it's like there's always a character, I think, in the game that is just that character that's like, play this character and you'll be successful.
Mm.
Right.
Mm.
It was, it was Mercy during the Moth meta, right? It's I actually wouldn't say Brig during Goats, because I think Brig, I think there are a lot of people who just kind of like walked forward and fed their faces off on Brig. I don't think it was as easy. I could be wrong here.
Well,
But
in pro play, 100% accurate. In ranked, you could get away with literal murder and not be punished for it. Yes.
Yeah, and I think right now Moira and a little bit of Orisa as well, is kind of like.
A little bit. I mean,
I think for me personally, if we're comparing Moira versus Orisa,
sure.
I would put Moira ahead of that. It's going to be hard for me to play devil's advocate here because I agree with you. But like, what are like the top? Give me two things on Moira that you would say this is why it's a problem. This is affecting the health of the game.
The free value of the damage orb and the fact that she can do everything significantly better than every other support in her category while being marginally easier and more forgiving as a character. Moira players like to say that Moira doesn't have any utility. There's no healer in the game that can heal. AoE, first of all, AoE abilities in Overwatch are very strong, very good. That is in and of itself utility to be able to do the same effect to multiple people at the same time. It's very, very strong. Two, she has the best mobility out of anyone in the kit on a 6-second cooldown whilst being able to self-sustain with her right click, right? There's no character in that category that can do all of those things as well as she can while putting out the damage numbers that she can, which is why her damage orb needs to either get removed or reworked. I think the nerf to her Biotic Grasp was not the right direction for her kit because she needs to be able to self-sustain what she should lack if she has good AoE healing, good self-sustain, and the ability to survive a brawl and a dive is the lack of damage. That needs to be the drop-off to that kit, right? Zenyatta's drop-off to do the damage levels that he does, is his, vulnerability, right? He's very easy to dive. He's that giant sheet of paper.
He's one of the only supports that can't heal himself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And he has no mobility. The only thing he can do is trank, right? Moira can do all of that while putting out better damage numbers in a 2-2-2 setting than Zenyatta can, right? And sure, you could say that meta enables her, but it's the way that she does the damage is the problem because you can just throw the orb. I won't even bring up the random kills, which happen all the time. That's just silly. First of all, the orb should at least not ricochet if it has a 5-meter diameter. I think its total potential area of effect is something like 80,000 meters when thrown for some ridiculous. I was talking to PMA Jellies about it. It's a ridiculous number compared to any other projectile in the game that has a very low potential area of effect, right? People were trying to compare it to Fire Strike, and I was like, are you seriously going to compare this to Fire Strike? Like, I don't know. You get rewarded for doing absolutely nothing, and they need to make the kit a little bit more demanding if they want it to have the effectiveness that it has now.
Well, I mean, so two things to kind of support the case is, number one, you get rewarded for just throwing it. Right. There's the and at this point in time, you charge it so much faster by throwing damage orb. Like, if it didn't even have the healing orb, it might not even matter.
Yeah, it wouldn't matter. It wouldn't matter.
And then two, I think the cooldowns on Moira really need to get looked at. I think the fact that you can get Cole so quickly, like you said, the self-sustain, she's too good at being independent. But this is my I said I worked at a game studio, and this is my game designer. You said you might want to work on a game that wins Game of the Year, right? In a game like Overwatch where things look very complicated, right? When you look at a character like Sigma, I think it's hard for a beginner player to see exactly what's going on, right? Because the shield's moving, but he's got this rock, but also he absorbs damage that's not a shield, and then he gains shield, right? Like a lot of that stuff, is there. We as a game need characters like Orisa and Moira for someone who's just starting to feel successful. Do you still think, after hearing something like, what is your response to someone who says something like that?
You're 100% right. This game absolutely needs characters that are very bare bones, that are easy to play, that can be picked up quickly. The problem only comes in when those characters have a higher reward potential than the heroes that are more difficult to play, which is what they are right now. Yeah. Orisa is by far the best tank in the game, mostly because of her Fortify. Unfortunately, I don't think this meta is going to change. I think people in ranked won't want to play it as much, but if we keep nerfing Orisa's shield instead of her Fortify, then bunker comps won't be as good. And that's the niche playstyle that she was supposed to enable. But Fortify makes her an 800 HP tank with 400 armor on a 10-second cooldown with a 4-second duration whilst being healed, right? You can't kill that. There is no counterplay. You're supposed to get the advantage once you actually push past her shield, and she has her orb or her pull to pull people off of her. But even if you pass the shield, right, she becomes even better and gets more of an advantage if she can use her Fortify, right? So And that's all by pressing a couple buttons, right? Once she's used her ability, she's already inherently gained the value as long as she's remotely in the right space. It's very, very forgiving as a role. And if you have these characters be this much marginally better than their more demanding counterparts, right?
Why would you ever play them?
Why would you play them? And what's the point of a skill rating system if these characters allow you to bypass what actual skill you should need?
It's happening in other games right now too, right? Like,
and you can't get it perfect. You can't get it perfect. So I want to give Blizzard some credit. It's hard to do, but it can be done way better. And it's okay to make the mistakes, like putting initial brig in the game. Okay, that actually was debatable, but it's okay if these mistakes happen. I mean, you get it. How many mistakes have we both made in our lives? A hell of a lot, right?
Yeah.
But the problem comes in.
Sports.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's freaking great. Jesus, I don't know how I can top that with any joke, but it's the problem comes in when you don't fix them quickly, right? That's the issue, and that's the main problem people have with Blizzard is that these patches come so freaking slow. When
it's honestly always been a thing with Blizzard, with all of their games. It's been their number one thing. But I hate to cut you off, but we're running out of time, and I always ask all of my guests one question. To end every show is why Overwatch?
I fell in love with the game. It's the most beautiful, well-optimized game with some of the coolest lore trailers, fun characters. It's a shooter that's a comic book, a backstory. This game brings everything, the Blizzard polish. It's a beautiful game. I will never fall in love with the game like I did with this one ever again. And I just want to see this game succeed. And I hope that at BlizzCon this year we get to see something great. There's not a better looking game out there. I love it.
Fingers crossed. When can you play a Pixar movie with violence?
Exactly.
And so that is, unfortunately, man, I think I could go on for another hour and a half with you, but unfortunately that is all the time we have today. So where can we find you on social media?
At SamitoFPS on Twitter, you'll see weekly Mortar banter. I have some ammo I've saved up. So you can't release it all at once, right? So there's going to be some juice on the timeline here soon. Don't worry. I'm going after Super Jump next. No, I'm just kidding. I can't do that. That'd be too much. Okay, I can't do it.
You got to let us breathe, man. You got to let us breathe.
Yeah. So at SamitoFPS on Twitter, SamitoFPS on YouTube. I stream Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. EST. I've been a little bit burned out recently on Overwatch content, so I've been slowing it down, but we're going to be getting back into it soon. Thank you so much for having me, man. It was a freaking blast talking to you. I can't believe this is the first time we've talked.
I know, man. I know, but we will make sure that it's not the last, my friend. And that has been Overwatch Lately for today. You can find me at Boopasaurus Rex on Twitter, and please follow the UGC channel. Follow Samito if you haven't already. Follow everyone involved. Thank you to our producers. And for those of you at home, we are going to take 1 week off because we're going to BlizzCon, and I'm flying out on a Thursday, and it's going to be a good old time because we all land on Halloween, and that's going to be super fun.
We're hanging out.
Yeah. Oh, for sure, my friend, for sure. But that's been Overwatch Lately. So we're going to take 1 more week, and then we're going to have an episode in 2 weeks. But my friends, that's been what's going on in Overwatch Lately. We'll see you in 2.